Hello, this is Brennan, one of the creators of Fresh Guess, the internet's only and best prediction market aggregator. Today I'm going to be giving you a brief idea of how Fresh Guess works and why you should subscribe to our 7-day no-cost free trial. So initially, when you go on our front page, you'll be able to see what kind of events we're tracking. So for instance, if you type in Donald Trump here, you'll get a list of all of the Donald Trump related events that we're tracking. So when you decide to subscribe to Fresh Guess, you'll get access to our premium database where you can type in another word that you're looking for or a related event that you're interested in. So for instance, if you're interested in like the Republican nominee, you would type in Republican and you can click here for the chart from one of our providers, and you'll be able to see like what the odds are of who will be the Republican nominee. So this provider, Paddy Power, currently has Donald Trump at 69%, and then Ron DeSantis had about 26.7%. In addition to that, you'll also be able to click the box plots chart, and you'll be able to see all of the distributions of the various candidates on one chart. And then you'll also get a histogram chart as well, where you can see the distribution of the candidates too, of the likelihood of the candidate winning. So in addition to that, you can search for like more obscure topics. So for instance, if you're interested in like Africa related markets, you can type in Africa and you can get something like, will Vladimir Putin attend the 2023 BRICS summit in South Africa? And you also get a link to the source for that prediction market. So when you click the chart, you'll get a similar chart. So this one's interesting because it shows that the chances of Vladimir Putin going to South Africa for the BRICS summit is at about 72%, and it's shifted just over the last month. It shifted to where he's less likely to go. And along with that, you also get the box plots, of course. And you'll also get the histogram distributions, of course. And then, in addition to that, you'll be able to get access to volume and liquidity data. Since this provider does not have any kind of volume or liquidity, we're not tracking that. But this provider, they do offer forecasts. So for instance, this market, there's about 111 forecasts. So you do get, in addition to just the raw probabilities, a nice time series chart of the volume, liquidity, number of forecasts, and number of forecasters data as well over time. So that's our premium database on if you're interested in various events, what's covered in there. In addition to that, we also have something called premium predictions, which is basically a more in-depth tool where we actually get hourly data from our various providers for certain markets that are similar to each other. And what happens is we create a weighted average probability metric. So for instance, this chart is just showing the current probability of will the Obergefell versus Hodges case be overturned by the Supreme Court in 2024. So right now, this case is at about 14%. And what you can do is you can go here to the provider and you can, like, for instance, click Insight Prediction, who's one of our providers. And you can see that right now, the case is at about 15%. In addition to that, let's go with something a bit more interesting. Let's go with, who will win the Republican presidential nomination. So it takes a bit of time because it's quite a bit of data because it's hourly. So right now we have an average, our Fresh Guess average, which is the weighted probability metric. It shows Donald Trump at about 63%. And you can choose like different candidates too, like Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, Tim Scott, etc. In addition to that, we also offer an interesting correlations chart, box plot chart, like I showed previously. And this is just highlighting all of the different probabilities from our providers. And this is actually what you can do is you can play around with it and like select a different date range. So for instance, if you want like the last month from like April to May 8th, you'll be able to get a correlation chart of all the different providers. So it looks like we've lost some providers for this market over time because it might have been a bad market from our provider. So, for instance, we have Betfair, the manifold markets, Metaculus, Predictit, Skybet, and S markets. And what's interesting with this is you can actually go and check and see how these various markets are correlated with each other. So we can see that Skybet, generally speaking, is a bit of an outlier compared to the other markets. So yeah, you can play around with the select date, the select time frame that you want, and then like pick and choose various different candidates. So this is for Donald Trump right now, of course. In addition to that, you also get access to the time series data as well, the actual time series chart. And what's cool with this is you can actually, of course, select for the various candidates, but you can also see, like, for instance, let's go with Metaculus or Metaculus, if you will. With Metaculus, you get the full chart, and then you can also do some forecasting on it. So like we offer 3 forecasting methods: basic forecast, a simplified forecast, and an advanced forecast. And what you can do is you can select for how many days you want to forecast for instance. With this one from Metaculus, yeah, so you'll be able to forecast for like the next 30 days for how Metaculus is looking. So it looks like there's some kind of upward trend for Donald Trump becoming the presidential nomination over the next 30 days. You can do the same thing with our fresh guess average as well. Yep, so it's showing a similar upward trend for Donald Trump becoming the Republican nominee. It's not as strong as the Metaculus trend is, but that's the general trend, is Donald Trump is looking better and better over the next 30 days. In addition to that, you can also click here and get the hourly data. So this is all of the hourly data over the last month. And you can see how it's looking. And this is a forecast here for the next 30 hours. So you can change that to where it's like, oh, what's going to happen over the next 24 hours for Trump's odds. Yep, and you can see that there might be a shift of like roughly 2% or like 2 to 1% in the next 24 hours. So that's useful information right there. Along with that, you also get access to, of course, the histograms as well, which this is not the best chart to show, but you do have to, yeah, you have to click it and zoom in a bit. But yeah, it's showing the general distribution of how these markets look. So yeah, that is the general software of what's offered. Hope you try out the 7-day trial, and I hope you enjoy. Thanks for listening. Doodles.